Going live, going live. You are live. Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? We are brought to you by remote. It's the good old days, I guess. Because
or something.
Caradog's gone and got himself a throat infection, and he was nice enough to be like, "Yeah, I'm not coming in on Saturday." So, are you okay, Caradog?
I'm fine. I tend to try and avoid infecting people with things.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yes. I'd like to set the record straight and make note that I did say to Caradog, I can solo the podcast this week if you want to save your voice. So if
I mean, there was also mention of other things in there as well.
yes, that's not the exact wording I used. It must be said, but I didn't say it quite so nicely as that. The significant thing is, if Caradog shreds his voice doing the podcast this week, it's entirely his own fault. So yes,
It's okay. I practiced yesterday.
Oh yeah, playing Phasmo. Yeah.
Are you close? Are you close?
Well, you say that, but we were playing Phasmo with some streamer friends, and you were just like, "I'm not spirit boxing. My throat is kill." So anyway, why is Caradog still so low, given he has his own seat? Well, he's at a desk
Because
now.
I try and keep my camera eye level, and Graham likes his camera to be like 6 foot above him.
Well, this is all dead space above your head. Alright, that's as low as my chair goes. Okay, hang on a sec. There we go. Now everyone can see more of the soundproofing tiles. Does that improve matters? Is this better? There we go. Anyway.
I don't know.
Hello, Postal, Yate, Omnicron, Nick, hello. Juha. Ben Laird, hello. Official low-profile Caradog. Yeah, half height. Right. You're going to say move them up in
Just
OBS.
not half length or something.
I can't move them up very far in OBS because you start seeing the Discord call instead. I can start doing this and just, but that's not quite so effective. So, oh no. Well, there we go. Now this is where we live. Now we're back to playing these games. Anyway, you've only yourselves to blame. Night Fusion, hello. Demny, Chris Kingan, hello. Let's see. YouTube really fixed the issue with not displaying video when the stream starts. Yeah, YouTube streaming. I don't watch many YouTube streams. However, I hear that it's very squicky. We haven't had, touch wood, we haven't had too much problem since we've been doing this podcast. But, there's a talking beard on stream. Oh no.
The only thing that I watch on YouTube that is a stream is this. So
yeah. I mean, I watch the WAN show, although I don't watch it live. I watch the VOD. So make it
I
that
watch
what
it
you
on
will.
Flowplane because I'm exclusive.
Yeah. Fair enough. I got declined to Floatplane, so I'm not a fan anymore.
Oh,
I did actually apply for Floatplane because that seemed like a good idea to me. I was like, yeah, that seems like a good place to expand into. And yeah, I got rejected. They were just like I can't remember what they said now, but they said words to the effect of they said, if my memory serves me, they said words in the nicest possible way of "you're not big enough," basically. Like they were saying sort of, oh, this is not a means to expand an audience, but rather to engage with an existing community and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, yes, I have a growing community and I'm diversifying. That's the point, isn't it? You know?
that's how diversification.
Yeah, they basically said sort of, oh, this is a platform for when you're diversifying revenue streams on an existing audience, etc., etc. And I'm like, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. So
I require you to give me the platform on which to diversify.
Yeah, exactly that. So
I
yeah,
wish to spread my wings
yeah.
or
So
something.
no float plane for me. It'll have to wait for another time. I mean, it's not critical. It just would have been nice because I wanted to expand to additional platforms so people could support the channel on whatever platform they liked the most. But yeah.
Absolutely. And
Why we
also the
separate?
fact that
Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say also the fact that Flowplane allows you to do things at obnoxious bit rates and stuff like that.
Yeah, that would have been
Doesn't
nice
complain
to
and has an
offer.
encoder that doesn't butcher red.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have a platform for super high quality stuff. But yeah. JD Abram, why are you guys separated? Another lockdown. No, Caradog's ill and doesn't want to give me his lurgy, which I'm quite grateful for actually, because throat infections suck and I hate throat infections, especially as someone who has to do a lot of talking as part of their job, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I do content creation for a living? I guess I do, because it makes up a significant part of my income these days. So yeah.
Yes, you are a content creator.
Don't come at me with that influencer nonsense. I hate being called an influencer. If someone approaches me and says, we're looking for influencers like you, I'm just like, I'm not an influencer, I'm a content creator. Influencers are just idiots who were made famous who don't actually create stuff. They're just popular.
I guess.
And you can't call them content creators because they don't create anything. They just hit record and be like, "Ma ma ma, I'm famous" or whatever.
Based off of Secure's messages, you are the influencer.
Yes. Anyway,
has there been any update with them and stuff and things and sending you other bits and bobs?
With Secure, I haven't got back to them yet. So yeah, the video I put out this week for the electric screwdriver, the Secure electric screwdriver, finally got the video out for this. I had a message back from Secure and they were very happy. The video was fine. However, for them, as far as they're concerned, the affiliate links are performing really, really well. Apparently, everyone really liked this screwdriver. So yeah, I do genuinely like it. I like it a lot more than I did when I first tried it. I don't know. I had to. This was a weird one. I think it's also just because I was kind of using it wrong when I took it out the box, because my YZH, which I'm not going to get because it's on the other side of the room, the buttons are down low, and you hold it like that, and you press the buttons on the side. Whereas with this one, the buttons are all the way up here, and holding it up there and pressing the buttons is really uncomfortable. And that's kind of what I was doing when I first got it. But then I actually started holding it like a traditional screwdriver, hand on the end like that, doing that with it. And that is significantly more comfortable, and it kind of started making sense when I did that. So yeah, this thing kind of grew on me. But yeah, apparently people really liked it, and people watching the video really liked it, and the affiliate links are doing incredibly well. I don't have hard numbers because my affiliate link control panel is showing lots of click-throughs, but it's not actually showing any sales. However, Secure messaged me back with a screen cap of their end saying, "Oh, you are bringing in many sales. Thank you very much," etc., etc. Also helped that I stopped using it for big screws. Yes, absolutely that. It's not good at big screws. That's just a fact. Just because the torque sensing just doesn't let you do that. It doesn't let you do stupid stuff. But yeah, so at any rate, Secure were very happy, and they're also like, "Oh, do you want to look at like our soldering iron and stuff like that?" And I probably will, I think, just because free stuff. The problem is just like I've got the TS100 and I've got the Pine-Sil already, and the Secure one is essentially the same thing, and I'll have a third one. So yeah, so I'm kind of not sure what I'm doing about that at the moment. I might I'll probably say, yeah, sure, let's take a look at it and do it anyway, because also I think it was it Sai who mentioned that apparently the TS100 is kind of an awkward to get at the moment, and the Secure one was actually really good for availability.
Apparently, yeah, the TS100 has been really quite hard to get for a while, and the Secure one is basically a cheaper semi-brand kind of knockoff.
And the Pine-Sil is also a bit hit and miss. Sometimes they're in stock and sometimes they're not. And so
I feel Pine-Sil's issue is because they're trying to be super low price. They can't get priority on their ordering. They
Hmm.
just have to wait until there's a freer run and then put stuff in with
Yeah.
manufacturers. Whereas obviously if they charge double the price, they could probably get some priority and
Yeah.
then maintain stock more easily. So I don't know. It's that 6 of one, half a dozen of the other kind of thing.
Yeah. I kind of like that they do it this way, at least, though, even though it makes their products a little bit more exclusive, because it makes their products incredibly accessible as long as you don't mind waiting for an opportunity to get one.
Yeah.
Because it means that you could, because their products are kind of experimental, and
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I really like them is it's a case of you get to try something that's a bit new technology, and I don't, and quote unquote cutting edge, a little bit rough around the edges, but it doesn't cost the earth. Whereas lots of the time when you're buying products that are made in small runs by a very small outfit, it's generally very expensive because they don't have economy of scale on their side. And Pine 64 seem to be doing a very good job of striking that middle ground. So, yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And certainly with also the development stuff they've been going in making their watch kind of a pull out the box and use as opposed to kind of a dev platform.
Mm.
So it's they seem to have done well on both fronts.
Yeah. So, however, that being the case, but at any rate, going back to the original thing, then I may well say to Secure, yeah, sure, send me one of those soldering irons, and I'll do a video on it. It's kind of going to be exactly the same as the Pinesil video, I think. In that I'll go over it, I'll talk about what it does, and I'll solder together a kit with it or something like that. However, it's more. I think it will be. I'll probably have in a section where I talk about it and say this is exactly the same as the TS100 and the Pinesil and all the other similar knockoff ones. However, it's got very solid and strong availability on it.
Yes, and that is its benefit. Seems to be its availability.
That's what makes this an interesting product, is the availability, and again, a very good price. So,
yeah, I think possibly the question, as Teltec said, would be, can you send me two so one of them can go to a competition and effectively be a giveaway?
That's a good idea. Yeah, I mean,
you can have a sealed giveaway.
Yeah, I mean,
and then the one that you've used can also be a giveaway, but a different style of one where it's kind of this is the used one used by me. Pick which one you want to win, kind of thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And like these things are $30, so it's not going to cost them very much money to send me two of them. And that'd be interesting. Yeah, that's a very good idea. Actually, that's a good angle. Yes, I like it. And yeah, Postal, I saw that you'd been having issues with your Pinesil as well, which is a bit of a bummer. I'm interested in getting to the bottom of that somehow, somewhen, but I'm not sure in what format yet. I think we need.
The answer is you tell Postal just to post it to you, and if you fix it, you'll send it back.
Well, I've still got one of his hecking PS3s. I'm so sorry about that PS3, by the way, Postal. I do want to do the video on that. It has made it out of the stock room. It has made it as far as under this counter behind me. But yeah,
congrats.
Just time. No, just time, man, time. Yeah. Failing that, what I might do is, what might be interesting actually is to suggest to post. Yeah, what we could do as well, Postal, is we could swap. We'll swap Pinesils. I'll take your one and I'll see if I can fix it. And if I can't, then I'll send it back to Pine 64. Or I'll talk to the Pine 64 guys and see what they think and see if we can, because that might be a very interesting repair video in and of itself. Is doing diagnostics on the Pinesil, because it's an open and repairable device, right? So yeah. Martin Barker, thank you very much for the sticker. Much appreciated. So yes. So yeah, there could be some interesting things in that. We should talk at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. However, yes.
Let's get your people to talk to my people.
And by your people, I mean you, and by my people, I mean me.
Absolutely.
Using a Pinesil to repair a Pinesil. It's true. It's true.
Pineception.
Yes. Cool. Yeah, that's the thing. Ben Lair, thank you for the £5 as well. Much appreciated. How's it going? So, yeah, well, that'll be a thing then. Yeah, so we'll do that. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I think if I get on with it, I'm getting into my stride a bit more with doing the review stuff. It's harder than it looks, I think. It's harder than it looks, but we'll get there. Let's see, file not found. Switched from a 990FX to a 970FX from the same manufacturer. Do you need to reinstall Windows to get optimal performance? I would almost certainly say no to that. However,
especially if you're running a modern operating system,
yeah,
like
Windows
8.1, 10.
Yeah, Windows 10 doesn't care. Yeah, it doesn't care.
Yeah, I still think that's utterly incredible. Just all of the obviously very generic drivers they've built into the base install of Windows 10. And also, just the fact that you can just plug in basically anything on a live install and it just goes working. So yeah.
Yeah. And also the fact that God, I'm tired, everyone. Yeah, and also the fact that of just yeah, like you say, live install, and you can just move the hard drive to another computer, and it's just okay with that. You know, like even Windows 7, moving a Windows 7 boot drive to another computer, like if it wasn't the same chipset, it was basically a straight no, and if it was the same chipset, it was a maybe if you're lucky and the SATA controller is the same as well, and if it's all Intel, so it's generally more reliable anyway, and you might have to boot it into safe mode. And whereas, yeah, Windows 10, it's amazing how much it just doesn't care.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's also a degree of it is just the fact of how much like device drivers and chipset drivers have matured and stopped just breaking.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, and I think, as you said, with Microsoft moving to a generic SATA controller driver by default, instead of all of the different ones that it used to package for like 7, that moved to a much better platform for them for just generally chucking it between devices.
Because like we were talking about this when we were building the XP rig, you know, like when we installed XP and just nothing worked, and that wasn't even just because we were installing on an inappropriate hardware. It was purely based down to the fact of just that's what it used to be like, man. You know, and I think that might also partly be where my dislike for reinstalling Windows stems from as well, on like repair jobs, because lots of people always go sort of, oh, just reinstall Windows. But of course, you know, like it was only, well, okay, I say only 10 years ago, but you know, 10 years ago when we were running XP and 7, it was a case of reinstalling Windows. It was a long, tedious job because you had to do the base install of Windows. Then you had to go to the manufacturer's website and find the drivers for everything and install all the drivers. And then you had to go through all of the bollocks of installing all your Windows updates. And just Windows is a much less painful experience than it used to be. It has come a long old way.
The complete rebuild of the driver stack in Vista and then the minor revisions thereafter made that such a better experience. Because even just to jump from XP to 7, the amount of stuff that worked out of the box was probably tenfold. And it was a case that you could reasonably rely on a piece of hardware that was modern and current, would just work straight away with a Windows 7 install. You'll need a newer driver, but at least you can get on the internet straight away because the Ethernet controller auto detects.
Yeah.
You know that plugging in another hard drive, it's just going to auto detect because the SATA controller isn't going to randomly just go, no, I can't find hard drives now.
Yeah, so, and that, and like even if the default drivers will only get you as far as an internet connection, that's enough to then get onto Windows Update, and Windows Update will take care of the rest. Which is a case with some of the more obscure Windows 10 laptops I've encountered that have like system on chip CPUs and stuff like that, where there is some weird hardware in there that Windows 10 doesn't recognize. but nearly on nearly all of them, like 99% of them, it will get as far as being able to run the Ethernet controller, and then you can just plug in an Ethernet cable, and it will find the rest of it on Windows Update.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think the perfect example of that was this PC last night, because my SSD died, which had my Windows installed on. So I put a new SSD in there and installed and was playing games in the length of time it took someone to complete a Phasmo map.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the case where it's like, if that doesn't show the ridiculous progress we've had in the ease of installation and so on, I don't know what else does.
Yeah, exactly that. Chris Kingan, thank you very much for the $10. Be in and out while listening. Currently on vacation. You beat me to it. Rude. Very rude. But thank you for the $10. Have a good holiday, my dude. Let's see. Rolling back a bit. Yeah, Martin Barker says, I moved to Windows 11 PR pre-release.
Preview
release, yeah.
Whatever.
And it's a lot faster than Windows 10. Interesting. Define a lot faster, just out of interest. Like, is this like in benchmarks and stuff like that, or just because, like, this is the thing on decent, or like, are you running it on lower end hardware? Because on decent hardware with an SSD, I find that Windows 10 is as fast as I can physically operate a computer. You know, I don't feel like I'm software limited at all. Like, obviously, I could run benchmarks to measure the speed of the computer, but around the desktop, you know, you click on settings and it's open. You know, like, how much faster can you actually get from that? Then also someone else, where was it? Someone else said, Just Ed said, do you think there's any truth that Windows 11 will only run on very up-to-date units? It's hard to tell, man. We just don't know. Clearly, Microsoft are serious about the support level here, where they are. It seems that Microsoft are absolutely going hardline. You know, Windows 10 will become the legacy computer operating system, and Windows 11 will be strictly modern only. Which I think is definitely going to be a good thing in the long run, because this is going to be an opportunity for Microsoft to cut off all of that legacy stuff. So I think they're serious, and there's lots of people out there who are going, oh, I'm running the pre-release and it runs just fine, and I don't have TPM and stuff like that. It's just like, the preview is not the release version.
Absolutely. I think it's also just the case of, obviously, what we're looking at, and all Microsoft has stated, as with previous versions, is this is the official supported specification. This is what Microsoft will officially support, will officially patch, will officially fix.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't run it on your integrated CPU in your toaster. It just means that Microsoft will provide you with no support in that endeavor.
Yeah. We don't know if... The thing is, we don't know also how much quote-unquote hacking will be required to run it on your toaster, though, because the installer may well have just a confirmation window that just says, you know, your computer does not meet the minimum requirements. Would you like to install anyway? And you can just say, yes, install anyway. Or it might turn around and do an Apple and just say, you do not meet the minimum requirements, and you have to make up a custom installer for Windows. And
I imagine it might be a case of there's like a custom installer. It's effectively like the Windows Insider installer. You basically just grab that and go install it. It goes, ta-da, done. But you have to actively go through the process of notifying that you're aware that you don't meet the supported requirements. Microsoft can legally wash their hands of it.
Yeah, because I'm kind of holding my breath until I know what that looks like, because lots of people are saying sort of, oh, well, I'll just make a custom installer and stuff like that. And it's like, well, yeah, in the DIY and enthusiast space, that's no big deal, you know, just to download in a certain way. It'll probably be very straightforward. But, for example, for me, running a local computer shop, I don't want to be installing homebrew and weird hacky custom stuff from dodgy websites on Joe Public's computer. Now, if it's just as simple as just making a Windows 10 flash drive in a certain way, Like if I download a custom installer, make up a Windows 10 flash drive, sorry, a Windows 11 flash drive, and now I have an 11 flash drive that functions exactly the same way but doesn't check for TPM, then that seems fine. I can very easily install that on people's computers, no fuss, no hassle. But if the process is like making a Hackintosh where you have to jump through all of these hoops and everything has to be done a certain way, and there's loads of asterisks, and if it does this, then you do that, I'm not doing that a day in, day out on people's computers. Certainly not for the money that you get for it. So that's the problem, is we don't really know what a custom installer will actually look like. And we won't know until we have the release version, because no matter what people say the preview builds behave like, the preview builds are not enforcing Microsoft's own requirements yet.
Not as stringently. Not, no.
So that's the thing, is we can make predictions, and certainly right now it looks like there's going to be a bit of a compromise. But yeah, as I say, I'm kind of holding my breath for the release, especially because we don't actually have very long to wait at all. You know,
it's also a case that I'm not particularly fussed, because by the time it actually matters, all of the hardware that's being dropped from support will be 9 or 10 years old. So
in the enthusiast space, yeah. The problem is there are still computers on sale today that don't meet the minimum requirements for 11. You know, and obviously they're cheap computers that no one really cares about. However, it does still hypothetically mean that I could have someone walk into my shop with a PC. Someone could walk into my let's assume that 11 comes out in November. Someone could come into my shop middle of November and say, "Here's my 2021 laptop. I want you to upgrade it to Windows 11." And I'm going to be like, "Oh, this is not supported." And they're going to be like, "What do you mean it's not supported? I bought it a couple of months ago." You know.
Yeah.
Now, that won't be my problem, but as is the thing with this industry, is the customer makes it your problem. And they'll be like, "Oh, well, that's not very good." And I'm like, "I am Microsoft. I'm not the one who, I'm not Microsoft. I'm not the one who made your laptop. And I'm not the one who's recommended that you buy this piece of crap laptop." You know, because that's the problem, is people see laptops in weird places that are highly recommended or on sale, and I've got a customer who has a really naff laptop that comes in for service now and then, and the first time he brought it in, I was just like, I was like, in the nicest possible way, this isn't a very good laptop, so it's not going to be very fast, it's not going to feel very nice, it's not going to be a good user experience. And he was just like, "Oh, well, I bought it from this advert that said it was very good," kind of thing. And he just got had by a sales pitch, basically, and he just ended up being stuck with this crappy laptop, which he probably paid too much for, and then was in with the sunken cost fallacy, where he was all in on it, and he spent a ridiculous amount of money on servicing and repairs to it, and it's just like every time it comes in, I'm like, "Oh my god, it's this thing again," So yeah, that's the thing. So it's theoretically, all the hardware that is out of support by 2025 will be hardware that no one cares about. But yeah, I think there'll be some clash. But then, that much being said, again, 2021 laptop that doesn't support 11, well, fine, you just run 10 on it until 2025. And if it's bad enough that it doesn't run 11, then it's going to be obsolete by 25 anyway, because it's a cheap laptop and they only last 2 years. So yeah, okay, self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
The problem is obviously the fact that the very bottom of the PC market, of that part of the PC market, the very bottom end, will always exist, and it's very difficult to do anything about it, because it requires a degree of learning from absolutely every single person out there, and obviously most people don't care. Most people don't want to learn, which is entirely acceptable. Because, like, I don't want to learn how to fix a car. I pay a mechanic for that. I don't want to learn how to fix a roof. I pay a roofer for that. That's an entirely valid point and opinion to have. It's also a case of, obviously, you need to pay attention to the recommendation that the roofer makes when you're buying one, that the mechanic makes when buying something, because they're usually the ones who know about the
Yeah.
thing. It's a case of getting advice about what to buy from the person who's selling stuff to you is generally less of a good idea
Yeah. I think
because they
in a
benefit from
way,
selling stuff, not selling you what's best for you.
in a way as well, it's also like using a calculator. Because in schools, when we were taught how to use calculators, one of the first things that the teacher will always tell you is when you get a result from the calculator, is to do a sanity check on that and just say, look at the result the calculator has given you. Does that seem reasonable? You know,
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the same. Is that, you know, if you're being told by a repair shop X needs to be done with your computer, you know, yes, they're the expert, but also you need to listen to their answer and think, does that seem reasonable? And that requires a bit of critical thinking and perhaps a little bit of knowledge, which is the tricky bit. But I think it's mainly the issue is just some people will just see an advert and be like, wow, and buy it. And you have to look at that and be like, is this a reasonable looking laptop? Why is it so cheap? What else might be available? You know, and a lot of people don't have that. They just trust whatever the calculator says. You know, so if and that's the issue, I think, is listen to experts, listen to advice, but also have a listen to it and also think, does this seem like reasonable advice? I guess. Just rolling back a little bit.
Could easily get onto a tirade about a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Well, before you do that, I just want to roll back a bit because Patrick C said the problem with custom installs for Windows 11 is that if Microsoft decides to push an update that breaks all of the hacked installs, you're going to see all of those customers back in your store. And yeah, that's a very, very good point. That's a very good point. Again, we don't know how that will be, what that will look like, but yeah, that's a very good point. It's another reason why that is something to be treated with extreme caution. Because again, lots of people have said, oh, you know, it'll be easy. There'll be a hacked install. You just do it this way, and that'll bypass TPM. Yeah. And it'll be like, yeah, unless Microsoft patch that, and then I'll have a lot of problematic. And like also, if Microsoft did something that, let's say you do a hacked install that bypasses the TPM requirement, you upgrade that computer, Microsoft patch Windows 11 to enforce the TPM requirement, that computer comes back in, that is almost certainly going to need a reinstall of Windows 11. Oh, sorry, a reinstall of Windows 10, which means backing up and reinstalling Windows. And that's a bit of a disaster because that means the customer has to reinstall all of their apps and programs again, which is a disaster for a customer because they don't know what apps and programs they have or where they got them from.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, just a comment that a couple of people are saying about they've bought an X570 board and that doesn't have TPM. No, but all of the processors that are supported by X570 have FTPM, which is functionally the same thing, and is the direction that Microsoft, Intel, ARM, AMD, and someone else, I've forgotten who it was, wanted to go in anyway and make it built into the actual processor.
Yeah.
And that's where I've just forgotten what it was called, the Microsoft project, where they were building effectively the new version, the replacing of all of this. I've entirely forgotten what it's called. But it's effectively a custom controller running all of the encryption stuff.
Yeah. I think the TPM requirement is probably going to end up being the least of the least problems because like again, it's just anything may to lose TPM support, you've got to go back reasonably far. So and like pretty much vast majority of laptops and OEM computers already have TPM. So I think the TPM requirement is going to turn out to be not a big deal. My only concern is the fact that now everyone will be running TPM. We may run into more issues with Windows installs and data recovery being more difficult from a repair perspective. But the solution to that, of course, is the same as it always has been, is just make sure people are backing up. Because if you back up, then you've got nothing to worry about.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And Sniff also says, pretty sure most TPM modules use the SPI interface directly to the CPU. Yes, that is correct. The TPM modules are SPI interface. Don't know if that goes directly to the CPU or not, But if it doesn't go directly to the CPU, it's probably going through the PCH and then to the CPU, which is going to be functionally identical to all intent and purpose. It's going straight into the main system rather than through USB and stuff. USB TPM, yeah, I'm pretty certain that's not. I'm fairly certain that USB TPM is not feasible, because that making that secure would be a first-class nightmare. We've already seen that stuff like the Apple T2 chip, the T2 chip has a vulnerability, and the vulnerability is via Type-C. So, again, because you've got an interface there, which is very versatile, it's also incredibly difficult to effectively lock down. So, yeah. And also, TPM, Teltac just said FTPM is better because TPM can transfer some stuff in plain text. That I haven't looked into, but I'll take your word for it, Teltac, because you know a lot more about that than I do. But I think also the main issue that I have with TPM modules is just that a lot of them are not board specific, but there's not enough standardization on the TPM header, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
Perhaps I'm just saying that just because I made a mistake when I did actually buy a TPM module to experiment with. However, the one that I bought doesn't fit anything I own. I've got a couple of MSI boards, doesn't fit any of them. Just so these things seem to be a bit of a pain in the ass, basically. So I'm glad that I managed to get hold of this one before the prices skyrocketed, because this was a waste of money. I shouldn't have thrown it at the microphone.
Good job. Yeah, it's a mess, I think, is the answer with that, with the header at the very least. Just, yeah, I feel like this now that it is a requirement, the motherboard manufacturers are more likely to standardize on something, except for Asus.
Yeah.
All order standards. But,
well, again, FTPM is kind of negating their requirement to deal with it at all, which I think is a good thing, because it means they don't have to. Because if the motherboard, if TPM wasn't a thing, the motherboard manufacturers would be like, oh my god, we have to put TPM on everything now. Whereas instead, just AMD and Intel have just been like, we've already done it. We've already done it. Just don't. We've done it. You don't need to do anything. We've already done it. So
you apparently lack the competence.
Yeah, pretty much. Pianov, hello. How's it going, my dude? TPM uses the LPC interface going to the South Bridge. What's LPC? I'm not familiar with that one. I have not heard of that particular bus.
Also, what's the South Bridge?
Well, yeah. The PCH, yeah. It's in the spot where the South Bridge used to be. Is Pianov showing his age?
Back on my Pentium 4 motherboard.
No hate, Pianov is a lot. Pianov knows more than most of the people in the chat, including you and I put together.
Oh, so, absolutely.
Yeah. What is TPM? Can you please explain? So TPM is a trusted platform module, and it is a hardware encryption chip that stores encryption keys. So if you're doing, obviously we're moving into a phase of computing where full disk encryption will be standard, and if you have full disk encryption, the key to unlock the disk at boot needs to be stored somewhere. And so the point of the TPM module is you have a dedicated chip that stores that key and is also capable of generating random keys. So it's got a random number generator on it and stuff like that. So it can generate keys and store the keys, and it functions as the trusted key to unlock the drive. So that way, if the drive is moved to a different computer or system, then the module to unlock it is no longer present. So you can't just lift the drive out of the computer, plug it into something else, and access it. And likewise, because you have an automated device to generate and store keys, you can have big secure keys and not just a simple password that is very easy to break, because obviously passwords are intrinsically going to be short and or simple, which means they can be brute force cracked. Whereas a TPM module can store a key that big and that long, so there's no way you're going to be able to hack it effectively or feasibly.
Yeah. I also wonder if it's a case that you can take it out of a machine with a TPM, plug it into a machine with a different TPM, and hopefully what it will do is just pop up saying key mismatch. Please type in the original key. You can then type in the original recovery key.
I hope it works in a very similar way to how BitLocker works, because BitLocker is magic.
Absolutely.
And that's high praise coming from me. As someone who does repairs, I despise full disk encryption. It makes my life very difficult. And when I say I despise it, obviously it's very good for privacy and all the rest of it. But when you're trying to fix someone's computer and you're working on an encrypted drive, it's a pain. However, BitLocker makes it really easy because you can just log into the customer's Microsoft account, get their recovery key, type in the recovery key, and unlock the drive from any other computer. So it would be nice if you can do something similar with TPM, but I don't have enough experience on it yet.
Yeah.
Incidentally, Piano says, LPC is low pin count, a 4-bit bus. Wow, that's super low level, used for communication between the EC and SIO and Southbridge. Yeah, fair enough. Some older BIOSes in PLC C32 were also on the LPC bus. Fair enough.
What on earth is PLC 32?
Yeah,
is it a package?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if I've seen... Yeah, I've only ever seen...
Google.
Yeah, I've only ever seen BIOSes in the DIP 8 style or SOT 8, I think. But yeah.
I'm looking at pictures and going, I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Yeah, fair enough.
The pictures do not help.
Yeah. TPM will store the BitLocker key. Absolutely it will. But of course the question is that if there is a fault with the computer, if I want to do data recovery, can I pull the drive out, plug it into another computer, and bash in the known key for the drive to unlock it? Now with BitLocker you can, because you could, because you'll have a recovery key. But if we're not using BitLocker, if we're using what else would you be using? It's Microsoft Windows.
Yeah, sorry, I was rolling the question separately. Other full disk encryption providers.
Yeah.
If the disk is fully encrypted and using the TPM, and then the TPM fails or is no longer present, will it just ask for the key instead, or will it just go, disk's dead, goodbye?
Yes. That's something that's definitely something to test with, I think. That would be very easy to put to the test, because we can do that now. Well, not this second, but we can do that now. We can just do Windows 10. We can just do Windows 10 BitLockered on a computer with TPM enabled. Move the drive to another computer, and just see what happens. So yeah, I think some experimentation will be required there, because this is a problem that anyone in the repair business is going to run into a lot once Windows 11 rolls around. This is a problem that is not going to go away.
I know on my Surface Book, if you had a Microsoft account and BitLocker, and you'd enable BitLocker, and then you went to reinstall Windows, as part of the Windows install, it would ask for a recovery key, or for you to sign into the Microsoft account. You could then unlock the drive to allow reinstallation. Yeah,
that lines up with what I have seen, yeah.
It's interesting that you could do that effectively from the installer. It would go sign in before the Windows actual installer ran.
Yes, because it can effectively just boot into a recovery environment to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's see. What else did I just say? Jonathan Fazani also says, "What about the secure boot requirement?" I have no beef with that. Secure boot has been around since Windows 8 and has caused me no issues whatsoever, really. The only thing because secure boot just basically means that you can't boot from any other source without disabling secure boot in practical terms. And like if someone's like when I'm working on most laptops have got secure boot turned on already, and if I need to boot them from a I don't know, a repair drive or some other boot drive like say Memtest or something like that, I might have to turn off secure boot first and then turn it back on again to boot back into Windows. But secure boot doesn't seem to actually cause any issues. I think the point of secure boot is that you cannot trick the device into booting from another source without user intervention, because the objective of secure boot is that if you're running Windows and you download a virus, the virus might try to slot in a different bootloader so it can pre-boot before Windows can, thus making itself immune to antivirus. And secure boot prevents that from being possible. And to get around it, you just switch off secure boot when you need to. So it's to my knowledge, secure boot just seems to be more of this prevents an automated attack and requires user intervention, and that's fine because when you're repairing stuff, that's user intervention anyway. So yeah, the EFI file is signed. Yes, this is that. The problem is what do you need to sign something? The signature doesn't seem to be very difficult to obtain, unless I'm mistaken. So
no, the signature is created by the hardware the machine is running on, and it's verifying that the boot loader hasn't been modified and that the hardware hasn't been changed.
Yes, so that makes sense.
Therefore,
yes,
it is effectively a. It is not encryption. It's a
checksum.
Chain of trust. It's a chain of trust kind of thing, a checksum. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a checksum that ensures that nothing has been modified without notification as such.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yes, it's not actually a checksum, but I'm using that as an analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's also a case that most of the distros of Linux that have come out since Windows 8 was a thing have their own secure check stuff in there, so you can use secure boot with them.
Yeah.
Or at least a lot of the mainstream ones do. I know Ubuntu built it in reasonably quickly.
Because secure boot has been around since Windows 8, I believe anything significant has already got the support for it. And I think also there's also plenty of other ways around this as well, because let's say Windows 11 requires secure boot to be turned on, and you're running a bizarre distro of Linux that doesn't have secure boot. Then it's kind of a case of, I guess you'd have to turn off secure boot every time you want to boot Linux, which would be a pain in the ass.
Do you not just have 2 drives?
That's what I was thinking. That's the direction I was taking from this, because loads of people talk about dual booting and stuff like that, and I'm like, just put the 2 operating systems on 2 different drives. It's so much easier. Even in laptops, this is not really a big deal, because your laptop these days has either got an M.2 and a 2.5-inch bay, or it's got 2 M.2 bays. So it's like in the old days, dual 2 drives in a laptop was kind of tricky, but these days it's really quite simple to have 2 physical drives in a laptop. So, and obviously on a desktop computer, forget about it. You can have as many drives as you want.
Yeah.
But here comes Teltac and the cloud.
Oh no. Windows subsystem for Linux, or Windows subsystem Linux. I can't remember exactly what the acronym is. Yeah, it allows you to basically do all of the Linux stuff just in Windows, because running effectively Linux in a command line interface in a thing, in a virtualized container, effectively. So yeah.
Yeah. Aaron D had to reinstall Windows after enabling FTPM. Interesting. Don't have any comments to that because I have not experimented with it yet. But yeah, I do need to get on with it. But I'll probably
I didn't have an issue with either of my PCs, but also that's X470 and X570 based machines. So
yeah. Don't know. I think the other thing as well is these days I find myself very uninterested in running multiple operating systems on a computer. I'm just like, just pick a system and run it. And if you need to do something that your operating system of choice can't do, have a separate computer for it. I think having multiple machines is a much simpler and elegant solution than I think a lot of tech enthusiasts have an obsession with having one device that can do everything. And
or
while
just
that
run virtual.
Yeah, well, that as well. And that's absolutely possible, but it's a lot easier just to have more than one device, in my opinion. Yeah, or virtual machines. Because, of course, virtualization has come an awful long way in the past decade as well, like leaps and bounds.
Yeah,
so,
I'm still amazed by how brutally fast Hypervisor is.
Yeah.
Hyper-V. It's astounding how it is close to one-to-one desktop experience performance.
Yeah.
Looks like I run all of the stuff I do for work inside a virtual machine, running in Hyper-V on my machine. Sure, I'm accessing it locally, but it's still the case of you basically cannot tell the difference. The only issue I have is for 3D accelerated stuff, just because for some reason 3D acceleration has got completely broken in my setup.
But yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, I was going to say that's a glitch rather than a systemic problem. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Let's see. Kevin Holmes, my PC's downloaded the Windows 11 update and always wants to install it. How do I stop it? Opt out of the Insider program? Possibly?
Yeah.
Or
don't be an insider.
Yeah,
opt out. Insider will give insider builds.
If you opt out of the Insider program, opt out of the Insider program so you're back onto release. And when you do that, Windows goes into a state where it will basically stay on the build of Windows that you have. Even if that's a preview build, it will stay on that build until that becomes the current build, and it will wait for release to catch up with it. So do that, and then additionally, what I would probably also do is delete the software distribution folder. So go to C drive Windows, and in Windows there's software distribution. Delete that entire folder. That is the Windows Update cache. All of your pending updates are in that folder. And if you delete that folder, you delete any downloaded updates. So that means, you've opted out of the program so it won't try and download it, and you've deleted the existing download so it won't try and install it. And then the next time Windows Update runs, it will rebuild the software distribution folder again. So you can just nuke that folder from orbit and Windows will remake it. Completely safe to do.
Yeah.
That's what I would do to get around that. Let's see. People are arguing over various virtualization stuff, and I don't know much about virtualization, so...
I know that I find the errors that VMware Workstation give are arcane at best.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'm going to jump to a different topic that I wanted to bring up today, and that is a thing that occurred this week that I thought was really, 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 really funny, and that was Buildzoid just owning everyone by declaring that memory speed should be measured in megabits per second. Because for those of you who are out of the loop on this, a while back there was a minor spat between Linus Sebastian and Dr. Ian Cutress over whether memory speed should be measured in megahertz or megatransfers. Obviously, everyone says megahertz because that's the apparent speed that...
I would also like to add a clarification on that at no point was it a spat, or if it appeared as one, it was fully tongue-in-cheek.
Yes, a tongue-in-cheek spat, yeah. Obviously, megahertz is the apparent speed that Windows will display. However, it is apparent speed because of double data rate. Megatransfers is obviously the number of actions that the memory is performing per cycle or second, which Ian Cutress, who obviously is a very reputable person, argued was the correct way, and everyone was just like, so that turned into a matter of MT was kind of the actually pedantic mode. However, then Buildzoid came along and was just like, actually, you're both wrong. I don't know what kind of accent I was trying to do. Buildzoid has a very strange accent. Anyway, he came along and said, you're both wrong. It should be measured in megabits because that's what's on the data sheets. And he displayed a load of data sheets from a load of manufacturers that revealed that, yes, in fact, megabits per second is actually the one true measurement. So, yeah.
Arguably, though, because it's an arbitrary thing, it should be displayed without units. Therefore, there is no issue with it because you are giving it a speed rating of 3600 or a speed rating of 3800.
However, that's the thing, though. It is up to, say, 3600 megabits per second. That's not actually arbitrary, is it? It's a theoretical maximum throughput.
I was saying that you could just say it without units as effectively a speed rating, a thing without units.
True. That would make it arbitrary.
Which it also is, basically, because you're only saying what the things are available to do at maximum, not what they are presently doing. Certainly when you are buying RAM kits and so on.
So you're making the argument of, yes, it's up to, say, 3600 megabits per second, but it's very rarely actually doing that throughput. Therefore, that's...
Arguably, yes, to a degree, because obviously unless you're absolutely, maxing out the bus, it's not doing that speed. But that's not explicitly the point I'm making. More just a case of you might as well use the bigger number that people are expecting to use, but drop a unit off of it, because then they're not wrong. Because calling it 36 megahertz is wrong, because it is not 3600 megahertz. But still calling it 3600 and dropping a unit off of it doesn't make it wrong.
Yeah.
It is just a speed rating of that memory kit.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And obviously the fact of SDDR and QDR.
Something that I'm looking up at the moment, because I meant to look this up before the show, but I've forgotten. I'm looking it up now, is the fact that another rating that we've also got that is very common on laptop memory is the PC rating. So, for example, if I grab a random memory module, here we go. Here's a memory. This is a 4 gig DDR3 module. So, just that. And it says on it, PC3 12800, or PC3L because it's low power. And that is another unit of measurement, the PC rating. And this one has always annoyed me because I've always been like, what's the actual megahertz speed of that? And I'm trying to remember what that actually means, because I thought that was the transfer speed. Unless that's megabytes per second or something like that. I'm just quickly looking through the Wikipedia page to see what that value actually means. Oh, it's bandwidth in megabytes per second.
Transfer rate, megabytes a second.
Yeah. So yeah.
Oh no! What? Oh no!
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
That's just wrong.
Yeah. You see my concern here. So yes, there you go. So there's another one just to throw some more nonsense into the mix. However, I quite like the megabit rating. I think that makes sense. I think that's a number that is easy to understand. So yeah.
I guess the question is, what is not megabits, mega transfers certainly at least in this context, but a case the fact that the RAM speed is not running at that number of megahertz anyway. So megahertz is wrong. Mega transfers and megabits are arguably interchangeable, at least in this context.
Yes. I would say they're interchangeable. Yeah.
Certainly, at the very least, talking about DDR4 RAM. Inside the parameters of that conversation, as far as I can tell, they are basically interchangeable.
Yeah.
But then also the fact of the maximum transfer rate of a memory chip the actual single individual chip on a module is effectively irrelevant, because you're never going to be accessing that specifically, because I, as a user, cannot address that singular cell. I just access the RAM modules in total. It's kind of referring to the individual cell's speed is not particularly relevant.
Yeah, and I suppose given the fact that you can run memory at multiple different speeds as well, kind of also gives credence to the arbitrary number, because
to a degree, but then it's a case of what you display in, say, Z tools or something.
Yeah.
Or your CPU Z, or your HW info, or in Windows. What do you display? What do you show? You show the actual clock speed, the speed that the actual bus is running at. You show the theoretical throughput number. What is the actually useful number?
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of thing that we need to decide upon as an industry, is what's actually useful. What difference does which number make, if any, to actual programs, actual performance, actual tasks that people perform?
Yeah. I want to say... This is the problem with memory, because there's too many factors involved just to have one final number on it. Because I want to say, well, bus speed is the answer to that. It's so in which case, if you've got 3600, then it's that's a terrible number. If you've got 3400, then it's 1200. Wait, maths. Brain fart. 1700. Yes, yeah, I got there in the end. It's 1700. So if you've got 3400 rated memory, your bus speed is at 1700. But I suppose that begs the question of, well, what if your memory has, let's say, fallen out of double data rate mode? You can't see if it's actually running at apparent 3400 or not. But that's also not a thing that could happen. But then also, I think what we also want to factor in is, are we running in single channel, dual channel, or quad, or so on? And because obviously the number of channels you're running does make a tremendous difference to the speed of the memory, and that is not actually factored in almost anywhere that I can think of. That's just that's the speed that we measure its effect, but we don't actually see it displayed anywhere.
Because the peak platform bandwidth, yes, it's very much dependent on number of channels that you have. Yes, the actual peak read-write speed, effectively, of it, it depends on the number of channels you use, which is why obviously super memory intensive programs and so on run better on quad channel or 8-channel platform.
And I suppose then that brings in the argument of
way more bandwidth.
Yeah, and of course, I suppose that then brings in the problem of it depends on what you're doing as to whether the number of channels is actually relevant or not. So that's that's a factor, but not a be all and end all, I suppose, isn't it? So
Sure, to a degree, absolutely. Just like as has been proven with some stuff, it's very much a case of, well, with all things, if you're meeting the minimum bandwidth needed for something, it's then a case of the latency that's the relevant thing.
Yes.
So, like, say, running a game, if you have the minimum bandwidth needed for it to shuffle all of the stuff into memory and out of memory, and then you can do that at at a lower latency, that will give you a better performance than chucking more bandwidth at it, because you're not using that extra bandwidth. You're not saturating the bandwidth you're not saturating the bandwidth available because you're already below the maximum amount available. So doing it at a lower latency gives you more performance. I guess it's a lot of factors go into it when talking about the actual performance of the memory system. Obviously, you'll tune different systems for different peak performances because they have different requirements. Because obviously, certain things will probably have a requirement for lots and lots and lots of bandwidth, but because they're pulling very sequentially large data sets, probably they will survive with much higher latencies but much more throughput. You can run a much higher speed with a much higher latency, which will give better performance than running a much lower speed and much tighter latency, because you're doing lots of very small different operations and combinations thereof.
I feel like this is probably the answer as to why there's no specific agreement on how to display any of this information, because there is more or less too many factors to actually nail down a unifying speed rating. Because it's actually
great, but I think it's a case that what possibly you should be displaying is the actual kind of rating of the memory as a mega transfer amount, because it shows the number of transfers you can do.
Yes,
and just use that as a continual metric all the way through.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the most consistent things. Apologies for some background noises. Someone's moving. Oh, it's the doors upstairs is making noises. So sorry if you hear that.
It kind of sounded like thunder.
Yes, it's upstairs. Their French doors out the back are more or less directly above my head. So every time they open their doors, you get that noise. Anyway. So yeah, I did have it filtered out, but I've got this mic on a much less aggressive background noise filtering, which improves the quality when there's not too much background noise. But yeah. But yes, and also just to answer Starman's thing, Caradog has got filtering on his mic as well. However, also Caradog has a very, very scratchy throat this week, which is probably why he's a bit like sounding a bit like this kind of thing. So
occasionally, yes. Yeah. I don't think I have any processing on my side. I should just be basically open.
Okay, yes. You just sound very scratchy today.
Oh, absolutely.
It's okay though, not judging.
Oh!
Let's see. Jim's Tech, could you recommend a gas-powered soldering iron? Need a portable soldering iron that's decent. I haven't used a gas-powered soldering iron before. I have actually. Well, that's a half-truth. I have
used one once.
Yeah, are you thinking of Flink's old one?
I had one.
Oh, okay.
Because ages ago, it was just like, haha, this is hilariously unhelpful.
Yeah, I've used a basic one before, but that was before I actually knew how to solder in any vague sense, or before I actually knew soldering theory. So I couldn't actually tell you what. It's not fair for me to actually cast judgment on it. The main thing of note is that it's very, very difficult to gauge temperatures with them. But it's. I think the kind of things you would use them for is very sort of very rough out in the field, where you're just getting two wires and soldering them together, and the temperature is completely irrelevant. It's just like make hot, melt metal kind of thing. If you need anything with any vague amount of accuracy or for electronics, then yeah, as Teltac has said, I would actually run a Pine-Sol or a TS100 from a LiPo battery, because you can battery power these, and then you get a 65-watt electronic soldering iron out in the field. So that, of course, it's not quite as simple as just getting your butane one out and just holding down the button, and flame goes raw, tip gets hot, you solder. However, I think an electronic soldering iron on a LiPo battery is probably a better option, just because of the amount of control you have with these, and of course you've got all your interchangeable tips and all the rest of it. And of course, theoretically, with the battery power, it's rechargeable, and you don't have to buy butane things for it. Although I doubt they use up butane very quickly, but I wouldn't know.
Also, just to comment on that, they're saying about getting a Dremel 2000 kit. The Dremel 2000 specifically doesn't mention soldering in its functions that it can perform. It mentions things like burning wood and arts and crafts, or jewelry making.
That's something that I noticed when I last looked at the Dremel 2000. I can't remember who it was, but someone else at some point was. I was in an email conversation or something with someone who was going sort of, "Oh, have you ever thought of reviewing the Dremel 2000 or something like that?" And I'm like, I'm kind of interested to have a go with a butane soldering iron, just so I can compare and contrast it. Now I have a great deal more experience with other soldering irons, so I actually would be able to go, "Oh, this is very different." I'd actually be able to comment on it, but at the same time, just a 1,000-foot overview, I know it's going to be a terrible experience for electronics. So, yeah. Again, if you were just... you could probably use it for soldering in the field if you had like a drone and one of your... if you've got a drone and one of your motor wires has jumped off because you've crashed it, you can just do a quick spot solder to just solder it back on. Or... if you got, you could solder some wires back in on an airsoft gun or something like that. Just these kinds of just in the field join two wires together repairs. But I feel like that's what they're really for.
Yeah, very much the more gross solder two wires together type stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely fine. The trying to solder on a board, definitely not, because of the It feels like it's certainly, at least the ones I've seen, they just feel less precise because the tips I've seen on them have been way larger.
Yeah. Butane doesn't get hot. Oh well, whether it's propane or butane or whatever kind of gas, gas soldering iron then. Miss Guru, makes no difference for electronics. The tip gets hot and melts solder. I think there's a debate to be had over the ability to have a temperature-controlled soldering iron, because there are certain instances where you want more or less heat, especially because a lot of people are just like, no, heat to maximum. And it's like, yes, but when you run your heat at maximum, you drastically increase the chances of damaging something. Now, if you're a soldering god, that's probably a lot less likely to happen. However, if you're not a soldering god, knowing what temperature to run at can drastically increase your safety net. Like if you're working on a two-sided board, for example, and you're running your iron at 450, you're going to lift traces if you're not really careful. And so if you're working on a two-sided board, like when I'm working on double-sided boards, I drop my temperature all the way down to like 360, 380. Because it means that I can linger a lot longer without risking damage to the traces. As I say, I guess it depends on use case, but ultimately I agree with what Caradog says, is it's about the tip, because on a gas-powered soldering iron, you're going to have a big sledgehammer tip on it, whereas with the electronic irons, obviously you've got the interchangeable tips and you can have whatever kind of tip you like with it. So I think there's going to be a lot more options available there.
Also, the other thing that is to be a point is that technically, certainly operating in the UK, using a butane soldering iron will fall you foul of many hot works restrictions on building sites and equivalents.
But a soldering iron won't.
A soldering one won't. No, an electronic one won't.
Huh.
Because there's no open flame. There's no flame. There's no burning.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because also an electronic soldering iron, you pull out the power, it cools down in a second.
I hear the gas ones heat and cool very quickly as well. But
the gas ones, you literally have a tank of flammable material.
Yeah.
So if there was somehow a catastrophic failure, there is a much higher chance of secondary effect.
Yeah.
That's the way it's viewed.
I think that's one of those things where it's a case of, this isn't a practical problem. However, if you're a professional and you're having to abide by health and safety, then yes, certainly that is that's a hidden concern. Because if you like, and especially in the trade industry, my friend is an electrician, and he always says to me, like 50% of his job is arse covering, basically. You have to do everything by the book because of the chain of responsibility. And so, yeah, it's a case. So if that's a thing, if a gas-powered soldering iron falls foul of hot work tools, then yeah, that might be an issue. So yeah.
No!
Mr. Guru
I hadn't
also,
even considered the pressure vessel stuff.
Yeah, compressed gas. Yeah. Oh God. I mean, just like, I don't know how big a gas canister has to be before it counts. I guess you could say it's irrelevant. It's something that can theoretically explode.
It doesn't matter what the size of it is. It matters what the pressure is.
Yeah, because the pressure is going to be about the same no matter the size of the canister, isn't it?
Yeah,
in all probability.
In most applications, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Mr. Guru also mentioned, someone said they're really good for working on like pinball machines in the field and stuff like that. And yeah, that makes sense. It's an awkward place to get to. And again, pinball machine, it's just going to be big wires being soldered together, I would imagine. So that's interesting.
They carry a lot of amps.
Yeah, and Mr. Guru also mentioned you can control the temperature on them by lowering the gas flow. Yeah, I suppose that's going to come in with experience. It's not quite as easy as having a literal screen displaying the temperature of the iron. However, like a little bit of experience with the iron will tell you what's going on there. And plus, so yeah, that's a completely fair comment as well. So yeah. But yeah, I would still say I think an electronic iron on a LiPo battery is probably a more versatile direction to go in my opinion.
Especially given how cheap they are these days.
Yeah, and also just the versatility. This is why I love these electronic irons so much, is how versatile they are. Because if you buy a gas-powered soldering iron, it might be practical for use on your field work, but you're going to find it very impractical for lots of other things. Whereas these electronic irons, you can use them on basically anything that's not an anvil, and that's what I love about them so much. So if you go down the TS100 Pine-Sol secure SQ route, with a LiPo battery, you've got a soldering iron that will do not only whatever you're doing in the field, but many, many other things as well. So, yeah. You can use gas-powered soldering iron on site if you have an issued permit. So, yeah. I mean, if you're also a tradesman, and for example, again, like my friend, the electrician, he's also a plumber, and he does plumbing, and obviously he's got a plumber's blowtorch. So he probably has the necessary permits and or licenses for using that, which probably cover use of a gas-powered soldering iron as well. So he would probably be covered, but I guess it just depends on what else you happen to have. So yeah, I guess it's kind of situational, isn't it? Let's see. Yeah, that's it. It's an interesting topic. I think a lot of it is there's definitely two factors at play here. There is the practical side of it, of just which is better for the job, and then again just that legal side of it, because again, certainly in the UK where health and safety is a big deal, you may have to abide by certain restrictions which seem very stupid and very arbitrary, but you still got to follow those rules. Otherwise, you might find yourself at the wrong end of a lawsuit. So,
they have also reduced large civil engineering works from this only took 15 deaths to build to this took 0 injuries to build.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I don't know those stats, so yeah.
I'm just saying, the general project in 1700, 15 people died, 100 people died, whereas now we don't have that as a general rule for a construction project.
Yeah, I think everyone...
I agree.
Health and safety. Yeah, health and safety is everyone's favourite punching bag. However, ultimately, if people are not dying, then it's worth it, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly to a degree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. It's everyone's a hero until everyone's a hero and hates health and safety until they know someone who got killed in an accident that was entirely preventable. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Kevin Holmes, I've deleted the software distribution folder, gone to updates, and downloading the Windows 11 update again. How do I? Yeah, you need to opt out of the Insider program before you do that. Otherwise, it will just download it again. You need
if
to
you're
go
on
to
Windows 10.
Yeah, do you want to take this one? Yeah.
Sure. I was going to say, if you are still on Windows 10 and a reasonably modern build to go with, if you go to update in security and settings, Windows Insider program is on the left-hand side, right at the bottom, and there is a stop button. There's also an option for changing which group you're in. I've forgotten the correct name for it. And you've got, like dev, preview, or release preview, and something else, and the equivalent of what used to be the fast and slow rings. So you can either pick a slower ring, or you can stop.
Yeah.
And basically, you have to do one of those, pick the slower ring, stop, whichever, probably reboot, then delete the
software distribution
folder. That was it. I forgot what the folder was called.
Yeah, basically that. So make sure you opt out, then nuke your software distribution. Otherwise, it's just going to download those pending updates again. So yeah. Let's see. The ammoniacal. I probably just butchered that. Looks like Secure is just reselling Miniware eDesign products or ripping them off. I think they are produced under license. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I think I'm guessing that they're produced under license because you're absolutely right. They're absolutely Miniware designs, right down to the fact of like the screwdriver. It's the SQ ES 126, and ES is the Miniware series for electric screwdrivers. However, I did actually, it got cut from the video because I forgot to make sure it got included. But I did actually disassemble this bit a little bit. Hang on a sec. If I go to there, that's the wrong one. Podcast bench, Brio, display capture. There we go. If I go to, there we go. If I actually take the back cover off of this.
Sorry, I've just looked at the Miniware website and they have electronic tweezers.
Yes, those the electronic tweezers. Yeah, because your tweezers need firmware. No, those are LCR tweezers. So they measure capacitor health and stuff like that. So if you've got a capacitor, you can stick your LCR tweezers over the capacitor and get ESR readings from it and stuff like that.
Right.
So
okay.
It's like having a multimeter on a pair of tweezers. So instead of having probes, you have a pair of tweezers and you just go boop and you get a reading from it. So
that makes way more sense.
Not as ridiculous as it looks. I've got to take off this screw as well. Yeah.
In the demo photo for the digital tweezers, it looks like they're actually using the board out of this screwdriver.
Yeah, I really want Miniware or someone similar to that to make a pair of hot tweezers. Because I really want a cheap pair of hot tweezers. So this bit comes out and then that pushes out like that. And
you can get smart soldering irons. So it can connect to my Wi-Fi and I can turn it on and off over the internet.
You stop that. So someone else can turn it on and off over the internet, yeah.
Hey Alexa, turn on my soldering iron.
Right, so there's the control board that I've just removed from the back of it. And if I just remove the battery here, as you can see, it's actually got Secure on the silk screen. Now, when I first opened this up, I fully expected to open this up and find that it had the Miniware logo on the actual circuit board, and Secure had just had their logo laser engraved onto the case. However, as you can see, the silk screen has got Secure on it. So Secure are involved at the manufacturing level by some means. It's either being produced under license or perhaps Miniware produced these for Secure or something like that. I don't know the full answer to that. But there's, as I say, it's definitely not a straight up rebadge. As I say, I think it's produced under license from. I think Secure are just bringing in manufacturing capacity and for Miniware. So yeah. The battery for Mr. Guru, it's a ICR 10430, 320 milliamp hours, or the cell rather. So yeah, that is what are the dimensions of that? I'm guessing that's 10 mil wide, 430 mil long.
It looks like they have a
10 mil wide
different case.
And yeah, it's 460 long, but once you take off the protection there, that'll be 430. So yeah, 10 mil wide, 430 mil long, 320 milliamp hours. It would be interesting. You could probably fit in a longer cell in this. I think there's a little bit more room in there with a little bit of... Actually, I don't know about that. No, I don't think you can fit in a bigger cell. It would be very easy to replace, though, which is nice. This thing is pretty repairable, being a Miniware product, but I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what might go wrong with it or how easy the parts are to get for it. So I didn't bother putting that bit in the review. Right, that goes in there. And we turn that around again, slide that back down. And then I've got to now fit this cover and the buttons back on, which is a little bit fiddly. But yeah, you can take off, this ring also unscrews, and then you can start pulling out the gearbox and stuff like that. But there's bits that will fall out, like there's ball bearings for the way the gearbox works and stuff like that. So I don't know what the value of that is. I don't know how useful that is, but yeah, it does come apart at the other end as well. It's quite a good design. The only thing I don't like about this, which again I cut it from the video because I went on a bit of a rant and tangent that wasn't super relevant, is this thing is made out of stainless steel, which is rad, but it also makes it very heavy, and it doesn't need to be stainless steel. I'm just like, this should have just been aluminium, in my opinion. It would have been significantly lighter, and you're not working out in the rain on a car with this thing. It doesn't need to be corrosion resistant. No one cares. Here we go.
Interesting. Apparently the Miniware versions are micro USB.
Yeah, when I was looking on the Miniware website, when I first got this thing, I could not find, as I say, this is ES126, and I could not find an ES126 on the Miniware website. I'm not sure if it's an unreleased model or whether just it's an old one or something like that. It seems to be a design... Oh, it's doing that thing where it doesn't want to turn on. It was doing this when I was playing with it once. It looks like I've killed it, but if I do some fiddling with it, it'll come back to life again.
The only internet searches for results for ES126 are all the secure results. There are no Miniware results.
Yeah, so again...
So perhaps it's modeled it was... Or perhaps it's a case of that's what the model is called, because it's the secure one, as opposed to a Miniware one.
Likewise, if you look at the button design, like the 2-button design and stuff like that, I couldn't see any Miniware ones that looked like they were identical and had Type-C on the back. So maybe... have I just lost the screw?
It definitely isn't a direct rip-off of anything that exists.
Yeah, perhaps they purchased the design from Miniware. Miniware had... This was Miniware's latest model, and Secure just walked up to them and said, we'll buy exclusive rights to this design, or something like that.
Yeah.
Right, unplug that, and then plug it back in again. I think I've just dropped the screw for this on the floor, and if I have, then I will give up and I will fix this later, rather than on stream.
Going to be like the VMUs, isn't it?
No.
Started with 2
happened.
working ones and a broken one.
That
Ended
never
up with
happened.
2 broken ones and a working one.
That never happened. Lies. Fake news. Right. Let's see. Let me catch up on chat again. A couple of people were talking about the Wow Stick. Can someone ask... someone might be able to answer this question. The Xiaomi Wow Stick. The Xiaomi Wow Stick, I believe that takes AAA batteries, doesn't it? Or am I wrong about that?
Sorry, but just the way you said that absolutely made the Xiaomi Wow Stick.
I said Xiaomi.
Yes, but it sounded like you said jammy.
Is that the right screw? No, I've just found another screw on the floor.
Technically, it's
Xiaomi. We've had this conversation on stream before, haven't we? Yeah. Right. This I have dropped the screw for this, so I'm going to need to fumble around on the floor with a magnet later on. And in addition to that, it's playing silly bit. I'm just going to quickly plug this into a charger, just because I think that will wake it up again. It's done this to me before, so I'm not super worried.
Oh, it's just the Wow Stick 1F Pro electric screwdriver, my jobby.
Maybe. There we go.
Oh wow, because that looks almost identical to the other one you have.
There we go. That's come back to life. Yes. There is also, I'm sure that Xiaomi have got a Wow Stick, because they've got one that costs like $15 or something absurd like that. Oh, hang on a sec. Look down.
They have a
way
precision screwdriver set, yes.
Yeah. Let me see. The Wow Stick 1FS Pro. Yeah, 2 pieces AAA. And I have concerns about that one, just simply because I'm not convinced that AAA batteries will provide enough grunt. I think you need LiPo in there.
There is a... Yes. There's like a cordless gun type screwdriver from Xiaomi. Like all of the old Dremel ones.
Yeah. That's probably good for big stuff.
Scraper and like so on.
Yeah. Right. Put that in, cut back on. Hacking.
It's the problem kind of with all of these is the fact that you can buy the same product with 3 different brand names on it.
Yeah. It makes it very difficult to actually know who makes it, which is the original one. There we go. Right. I'm just going to do a quick pass on the floor to see if I can find that screw. If I don't find it on my first attempt, I'm giving up, and I will find another screw.
Yeah, there's also this 16-in-1 ratchet screwdriver thing that they make as well, and stuff like that. And it's like, that looks identical to something from, or another brand's one looks identical to that one. So which one is it? And oh, is your one wire?
I use Wearer, W-E-R-A, but
electric. Oh no, that's YZH. Isn't it?
YZH, yeah. YZH.
Yeah, there's a brand which is YIHA that makes something that looks identical to the Xiaomi ones.
Yeah.
There's also Chemite that seems to make an identical product.
Yeah.
Like, so confusing. So many brands. Oh
pretty much. Yeah, as I say, I mean, the Secure, this one's clearly a miniware design, just because it looks just like the other miniwares, and miniware make their own stuff. I think, you know, we know that. However, the YZH one, I've no idea who originally designed that one, because I've seen it with umpteen different brands on it. So yeah, and I think earlier on, I think it was Postal or someone said that they had a Wow Stick and it lasted for 1 screw and then sounded like a bag of nails. And yeah, that's the cheap ones. That's the thing, and that's why this one is $100, because it doesn't sound like a bag of nails after the first screw. You know, or at the very least, this one's certainly holding up a lot better. Like my YZH one, that sounded rough as guts from the day I bought it. You know, it still worked fine, even though I haven't been kind to it. But I think also I've gotten lucky, because after I did the review for that one, someone else bought one, and I think after a couple, their one only lasted a couple of weeks. So the cheap ones are a bit hit and miss. But again, I think that's why these ones are expensive, because they are actually quality products. So Rick Lakes, thank you for the $5, my dude. Hello, Graham and Caradog. Hello, Rick. How you doing, man?
Very difficult buying these tools and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to actually pick the brand that's actually good.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's and
just looking at this, there's like 4 brands with identical photos, just a different logo on the box.
Yeah, that's it. And it comes back to that old story of, you know, if they're all different prices, you know, which you don't know which one. Like they're all different prices, but they all look like they're in the same case. Do they have the same internals? Are they actually the same product? So if if a reputable brand, you know, like you know, Weha are a reputable brand, But if they're making one that's in the same chassis as the YZH, is it just the same one with the same garbage gearbox in it? You know. Wow Stick 1F uses LiPo and the 1P uses AAA. Ah, fair enough. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know whether the LiPo one does actually have a decent amount, has more torque or not. Because as I say, LiPo is pure magic, and I don't think you can pull the same amount of current through a couple of AAAs. So yeah,
Do not worry about the trouble of charging. Continuous work for 8 hours. It can stand by for 180 days when not working.
Yeah, that's the battery leakage, isn't it? So yeah. Imagine having standby mode on your screwdriver. Yeah. Well, you do get decent. As I say, my electric screwdrivers, I charge these once a week, and like I'm not constantly using them all day every day, but you know, I do at least 1 or 2 assemblies a day. So yeah, and I seem to get about a week out of them. So it's not a case of you've got to charge them up every night. I probably wouldn't bother using them if I had to charge them every day. That would annoy me.
See, that's where they just have inductive charging. And then you just have an inductive mouse mat on your workbench. You just leave them on there.
And don't put a laptop on that mat. Yeah.
Inductive charging laptops?
Right, let's see. Arnold G working on an Asus X554 charge circuit. Got wet, heated to remove and popcorned. Yeah, the cheap Asus laptops are horrible. I really hate Asus consumer laptops. Their gaming laptops, they're okay, but their consumer laptops, horrifying, and I hate them. Let's see, you've got the same type of lithium-ion 14500 battery to light your gas cooktop, and it lasts about 2 years on one charge. Damn, that's not bad. This is a 2-hour stream. Yes, it will be. So yeah, I'm going on holiday tomorrow, and I haven't packed yet. So basically, we're doing a 2-hour stream today, and as soon as I finish up, I am going to pack up my car and get ready to go on holiday, basically. Which is also why I'm not doing anything today. I've got some stuff that I could have done, but in the end I was like, and we're just going to have a chatty show today. The other thing as well is I'm super tired because I've been on crunch to get ready to go on holiday. The problem with being self-employed is the stress of getting ready and going on holiday is often more than the relief of actually going on holiday. So yeah, but yeah, the other issue as well is that I've been decorating the old shop for the past 2 weeks or so. So yeah, that was a thing as well. More on that soon. But that's all got done. The old shop is gone now. I've handed in the keys. So end of an era, which almost seems weird to think about. It's very weird when now I go to pick up my keys in the morning and I'm just like, there's now just one set of keys, and I don't have another shop at the other end of the high street anymore. That's not me anymore. Everything here, this is just me now, and it's weird, but also a relief. So yeah. Where am I going on holiday? Not far away. I won't be. It's actually very close, which is nice. Because I like the idea of not going too far, just because it feels like less hassle. But I'm going on holiday with my family, and we're going to, I don't know what to call it really, a holiday house or cottage or lodge on its own in the middle of nowhere with some fields around it. And it's a nice big house with a couple of living rooms, a gaming room with a pool table on it and stuff like that. And we're just going to sit around and do nothing. We're going to sit around and we're going to read books and play pool. They've got fiber broadband there, so we're just going to chill out and just be somewhere else. And like, if the weather's nice, we'll probably go to the beach. And if it rains, then we'll sit in and watch movies and stuff. And yeah, it'll be nice. So yes. Let's see. Omicron coming in with... Carry on.
When you said pool table the first time, I did process that as in a pool on a table.
Oh,
and I was like...
It'd be cool if they actually had a swimming pool. That would be rad. Up to 3 Newton meters. Yeah, Omicron coming in with the specs on the Wow Stick. And yeah, the AAA one has got slightly less torque. Like we're talking 0.12 Newton meters versus 0.15 Newton meters. So that's a very small amount. However, if you actually calculated the percentages of that I think that's probably still a notable amount. And also, like, that might be the difference between it being useful at just breaking screws and not useful in that you have to give it too much help. So yeah. Da-da. And Christopher David with the $20. Enjoy your holiday. Cheers. Thank you very much, man. I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, as much of a ball ache as it's been to get ready to go on this holiday. You know, I've had to clear the repair queue completely, get everything out the shop and all the rest of it. As much of a ball ache as it's been, now I've done all of that and I've done the prep work and all I've got to do is pack. I'm really looking forward to this holiday. I'm going to have a really chill time. I might still be doing some streams. I haven't done any game streams for a couple of weeks now, and I've been doing some tests, and I might do some game streams, which will be fun because I'll be sort of. I like experimenting with doing streams and stuff from weird setups. And like today in the shop, I was experimenting with. I've got my PC on at home, and I experimented with using Steam Remote Play to my laptop. So I've got Xbox controller, Bluetooth to my laptop, and I tried streaming some games, and it works great. And also my laptop is just beefy enough to be able to do a stream. So I can also stream from my laptop. Doing remote play and the stream at the same time seem to cause issues. However, I could probably stream... I can stream HDMI capture. So I'm probably going to do some game streams where I'm just streaming some Switch games or something like that. So, what are you thinking about?
Stream from the PC at home via a laptop at home.
Oh no. No, I'm trying not to think about that too hard because it's going to break my head. So no. I'm streaming... No. Whatever. But yes, remote play seems awesome, and I think I'm going to actually put remote play to the test this holiday properly and just see what kind of game... Like, I'm just going to like sit and play some Dark Souls 3 on my laptop, and I think that's going to be super awesome. So yeah. Take some breaks from the streams. I kind of want to do that, but as I said, I haven't done any game streams for a couple of weeks, and I really want to get back into them. But I haven't promised any game streams. I will do some testing when I arrive, and if it looks like it's working, I'll do a stream. And if it seems ropey, I'll be like, yeah, I'll just wait until I get back. But the problem is that means I will have taken like a 3-week hiatus from streaming. And if you take a break for too long, then your regulars find new channels to watch. And you'll, so I don't know how badly that will affect my numbers, basically, because I've already been away from streaming for 2 weeks, and I don't want to leave it too long. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. Firephone, new heating station on a budget. Do you mean like hot air station? Because my recommendation for budget hot air stations is what I've got, which is the Quick 857 DW Plus. The Quick 857 DW Plus. It's about $100, and I think it's tough to beat that. That is a lot of hot air for $100, 852D plus. What's the 852D plus? Let me look that one up. Quick.
Which one did you say you had?
852D. I've got the 857DW Plus. Oh, the 852, that's the big brother, I think. Oh, I'm trying to get up a picture of it now. I can't find that particular one. The 857 is the baby quick. And then there's another one up. So quick hot air. Yeah, the 857 DW Plus is the baby one, and the 861 DW is the big boy one. However, the 861 is like double the price. It's still a very, very good value for money hot air station, but it's double the price. It's up to around $200 to $300. Whereas the 857 DW Plus, it's $100, and it's perfectly adequate for anything short of all-star repairs, in my opinion.
Have you seen the 957 DW Plus?
The 957. Let me check that quick. 957. Ah. That looks just like the 857. It's 580. I think my one's 580 as well, and that's also about $100 just on the first website that came up. What's the rating on mine again? My one's 580 watts. Yeah.
Which is what the 957 DW Plus is as well.
I wonder if it's a 110 volts, 240 volts thing. Because my one's 240 volts because Euro. And I wonder if the 957 DW Plus is the 110 volt version.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my guess. Because like everything else about it looks identical to the one that I have. Weller make nice hot air stations, but mega money. Yeah, Weller and JBC are kind of the big boy ones, but yeah, they're mega bucks. Quick are really good hot air stations, and they seem to be crazy cheap, basically. So, what air compressor do I use? My air compressor is a piece of arcane history. It does not have a model number. It's an old air compressor from a refrigeration system. It's like some industrial bit of machinery. There is no model number for it, so I have no idea what to say for that. The annoying thing is I don't know what capacity the tank on it is, so it's very difficult to recommend an equivalent. However,
it has a capacity of yes.
Yeah, it's probably a 5 litre tank, I would say. 5 litre? No, it's got to be bigger than that. Oh well, no.
It's not that big.
Yeah.
It can only do about
five
3/4 of a PC.
Yeah, it's about 5 or 6 litre tank. Because if you get two 2-litre bottles, it's about as long as two 2-litre bottles and a bit thicker. So yeah, it must be about 5 or 6 litres. I really want to try one of these electric air compressors, like the handheld blower things, because lots of people tell me that they're really good, but also I don't want to buy one. So if anyone manufactures them and is watching, hit me up because I want to try one, and I'll make a video. I'll do a review, and I'll do a bloody good review for you. I just want a cheap air. I just want one for free. So.
What was the one that was it Chris was recommending, or
can't remember. There's certainly a couple that there's one that everyone's been raving about. DataVac might have been. X-Power.
Yeah, because I know there was one that
Yeah. What was the one that Techmoan did a review on it? I think one of the retro hard or LG, or maybe it was, no, it wasn't LGR. No, I can't remember. Yes, one of the YouTube channels I watched had done one, and they'd done a comparison between 3 different air compressors: a desktop air compressor with like a tiny little 2-litre tank, a a big air compressor, and then one of the handheld ones. And he favoured the handheld one. And the long and short of it is the desktop air compressor was basically worthless because the tank on it was too small to be useful, and it was big and noisy and all the disadvantages of a big air compressor, but the tank was too small to be actually useful. It would be good if you were using it for like an airbrush or something like that, which I think is what they're really for, but as a cleaning tool it was useless. A big air compressor is perfect, but also overkill. But it's also very handy because with a big sort of workshop air compressor, you can also use it to inflate tires and stuff like that, which I do. I've got a tire inflator fitment for my air compressor, so I can do my car tires and my bike tires and stuff like that. However, one of the handheld ones for actually just dusting out a computer, apparently the handheld one was perfect. You know, it sounds like they're really good. Everyone raves about them. I just don't know if I want to fork out like £100 or whatever for them.
Apparently, the half-decent one that Chris was recommending is £42.
£40?
42. Yeah,
42.
It makes it far more tolerable.
Oh, yeah. For that price, I might just buy one. Yeah, I'm actually inclined. I might just buy one at that price, because the other thing as well is that I do still like. I always tell people not to buy compressed air cans because these things are kind of crap. However, I do actually still use these occasionally because there are certain times where I've just got like just a laptop fan which just needs a quick blast of air, and I'm like, oh god, I've got to walk all the way out the back to where the compressor is just to blow out this tiny little fan, you know. So I do actually still have a couple of these kicking around. They're not very good, but in a pinch they're fine. So if I bought the X Clean for £50, including delivery, even if it didn't become my main compressor, I would still use it occasionally for quick stuff. So yeah. And also just to answer that one, Chunky Chunk. We're not under lockdown, but Caradog has a throat infection, which is why his voice is super scratchy. So, and he was
being polite in doing that thing of not infecting people.
Yeah, he was just like, he messaged me and said, Graham, I've got a throat infection, so I'm not coming in on Saturday. And I'm just like, thanks. So yeah, and yeah, Techmoan, I was right about that. I thought so. RWR. I first watched Techmoan in 2010 with the Dockintosh iPad and speaker in a classic Mac shell. Yeah, I'm not subscribed to Techmoan, but I have watched a couple of his videos because they pop up in recommended now and then, and I do like his format. So yeah, I like Techmoan. He's cool.
I'm pretty sure he recorded the IVR for a company that we use.
What's an IVR?
The telephone options.
Oh right, yeah. He's got a good. Yeah, he has a good radio voice, doesn't he? Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, excuse me. I'm pretty sure he recorded it. It sounds just like him. And it was just like, how bizarre.
Yeah. No, that was not a RuneScape reference to whatever it was I said. And Mr. Guru, make an adapter to fill the cans using the compressor. That would be cool.
Not work.
Yeah, well, yeah. I wouldn't be able to get enough pressure in there. It's funny. Do I have it to hand? No, I've got no clue where it is. Actually, I may have thrown it out. At one point, I did have a portable air canister. And it with the same fittings as my compressor, so I could fill up could fill up the tank from the compressor and then carry the tank with the fitting on and have a portable one. However, all the seals on it are shot, so it's not useful anymore. You fill it up and you can just hear it leaking. But then that's the problem with that compressor as well. All the seals on it are shot. I do need a new compressor, but my current one works just well enough for me to not bother replacing it. So yeah. I want to sort out a decent air compressor setup, especially if nothing else, just so I have something I can recommend to people. But yeah, I'll go and quickly take a picture of my one just so I can share it, just so people understand what I'm talking about here. Because when you see it, you'll be like, oh, okay.
It is very old. A little bit rusty, a little bit in need of a lot of TLC. Yeah, it still functions, at least for now, so
Yeah,
I feel like that's the excuse you're running by.
It is really on its last legs because it's struggling to reach maximum pressure now, or at least the pressure that it used to be able to reach. I can't remember how, like, it normally charges to about six bar or so, maybe 6.5 bar, and as soon as it reaches like 5.5 bar, it really struggles. And like the runtime for it when it's recharging, like the first half is the needle going up to halfway, and then it takes the same amount of time just to get that bit further up to its stopping point. So yeah, it's really struggling to reach maximum now.
I'm sure if you actually had all the seals replaced, it would work okay.
Yeah, it probably would, but it's a case of, what am I going to do? Do a full refurbishment on this, or just buy a modern one? You know?
I mean, based on how well that I refurbished this 80-year-old hammer videos do.
That's a good point, actually. And it might be kind of interesting. Right, am I safe to share this? I am. Let's see. Let's go to...
Am I safe to share this? Oh, no, never mind. Those are not the photographs I want to share. Those are from last night.
Yeah, I tell you what, let's just bump that up the list a sec. Let's just go, whoop. There we go. That's my air compressor. Can I zoom on that?
Ooh.
Oh. Zoom.
Control and scroll, all the plus minus at the top.
Yeah. There we go.
Plus, right?
So yeah, 80p. Yeah, it goes up to about. I think it charges to 100. I think its set point is 100 psi, but it really struggles to get past 80. So yeah, and you know the actual compressor. This bit gets super hot when it's running as well. That'll burn the back of your hand while it's running. So, you know, it's set, but, you know, a lot of people have said, oh, you just got to lubricate it, but it's got a sticker on specifically saying, never lubricate this oilless compressor. So, yeah, I don't know, basically, I don't know what to make of it. But that is the compressor I use, and you can see why when people ask me what compressor do I use, I'm like, I don't know. So... It's agricultural, yeah. Send a pic of the blower on the Twitter. Okay, I will have a look at that. However, that compressor has done me very proud for the past 10 years. I robbed it from my dad's shed. He had it in there for as long as I can remember. That compressor is probably 30 years old, minimum. You know, it's probably 30 years since my dad probably obtained it 30 years ago, and it was already 10 years old by then, I would imagine. However, when I opened my own shop, I needed a compressor, and I said to my dad, I said, "Can I have your compressor from your shed?" And he's like, "That's my compressor." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you never use it." And he's like, "Fair point. Okay, very well then." So yes, now it's my compressor. So Quan Lo, thank you very much for the $10. Much appreciated. That's a 10 to 15 litre bottle. Yeah, it might be. I'm really bad at gauging volume.
If that is a 10 or 15 litre bottle, you really need like a 15 litre bottle for blowing out a PC then.
Yeah, possibly. The other thing to bear in mind is that tank is full of sludge and water.
I thought you emptied it.
I did. There's still a lot of sludge at the bottom, though. I think I need to empty it again. Now it's had some time to settle.
Also, see if you can disassemble it.
Possibly, yeah. Because yeah, it filled with a lot of liquid because I probably went about 6 years without emptying the tank, and it's all in the moving blog. Did I publish the video about with? Yeah, I did. Yeah,
to the pre-release people. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the exclusive moving vlog videos do include this story about the air compressor and also when I emptied it and the amount of water that came out of it when I did. So, yeah. Let's see.
Sorry, I've just had an extreme weather alert pop up on my phone, and it says extreme weather alert: action to take. Avoid the subject at all costs.
Is that literally what it says?
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know which subject I'm avoiding, but you have successfully avoided it. Congratulations.
Well. Fair enough. Let's see. Right. Yeah. Well, maybe I will refurbish it. What I'll do, I'll buy one of these handheld ones and try that out because because if I buy a handheld one and it is fit for purpose, then I will have something else I can use. Because I don't want to dick around with that one while I don't have another air compressor. So I'll buy one of those handheld ones, and then assuming that is fit for purpose, I may well do a video and see if I can refurbish it. Just because it's not, just because it's something a bit oddball, you know. And yeah, that'd kind of be fun. It's probably not a huge amount of work. Probably just some new seals, some new, you know, it's probably more of a plumbing job if nothing else. Because then, you know, it's a compressor. It's not rocket science. I may even be able to replace some parts on it, you know, put a new regulator on it and stuff like that. But again, all the fittings are probably imperial, not metric. You know, that's the kind of problems I'm going to run into. But yeah, we'll see. In any case, we've just hit the 2-hour marker, and I do want to wrap up early today because I've got to go and pack to go on holiday. So, unless there's anything else that anyone wanted to add, I think we're going to call it for the day.
Unless anyone has anything they want to say.
Yeah.
Otherwise, hold your peace.
Well, Adam says, no, it's too old. At some point, it's a danger. I think that's a valid point as well. Yeah. And that's the other thing that concerns me about messing with it as well. But we'll see.
Although, at the same time, when it's in a separate room, separated by 2 walls, it's less of a concern.
Yeah. That's true. You suppose you've got to look at it and you've got to be like, well, what kind of failure mode will this exhibit? And failure modes are likely to include hoses and or fittings blowing off. But most of the hoses or fittings are going to fire at the wall or into the floor. So yeah, there's probably not a huge amount of risk there because the likely points of failure are reasonably contained. So yeah, we'll see. I'll have to
at least mitigate the risks quite a lot.
I think what I'd have to do is I'd have to find someone who knows a bit more about refurbishing mechanical stuff like this and talk to them about it first, just because they'll either turn around and say, oh yeah, that's easy, just buy the fittings from here and here and here. These are the sizes you'll probably need for it. Or they'll turn around and be like, no, that's a death trap. Don't try and service that thing. Yeah. And so yeah, I think that'll be the answer there. Compressor will blow up a house if the tank goes. Yeah, that's going to require like a crack in the tank though, and I very much doubt that's the issue there. But yeah, I got to talk to someone in the know on these. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, thank you for all of the well wishes, everyone. Much appreciated. As I say, I'm not going far away, just a little ways further into the countryside. Going to stay at a house with my family. And I'm going to sit around and be lazy and read books and watch movies. And it's going to be rad. I'm going to enjoy it. Omicron, X-Power A5 multi-electric duster, dryer, blower, air pump, compressed air, duster, vacuum, black, $69. Pounds. 70 quid. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I'll have a look around and see what's available. Hot water tank can blow up a house and it's only 1 or 2 psi. We'll see. Right, alright, that'll do. That'll do. Propane tanks. Yeah, don't forget, this is only holding air though. It's not holding a flammable liquid. So, we'll see. Yeah. That's the thing. It's I have doubts that it's actually that dangerous, but I'm not an expert, so I will talk to someone who is a verified expert first, And while it's entirely possible that some people in the chat are genuinely experts, but I don't know that. And
also a case of actually expecting it in person is significantly different.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's true as well. But yeah, we'll see. Dave Bell, my air tank is 4,500 PSI. That's a lot of PSI. Mine is definitely not that high. This one charges to 100. So yeah. Hot water tank was busted on Mythbusters. Yeah. Be careful what you read on the internet, people. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going. I've enjoyed this conversation in English. When will I return from holiday? I'll be back next Sunday, or sorry, a week Sunday. So I will be away for a week. I'm scowling here because Caradog is just like, next Sunday is tomorrow. I'm like, no, tomorrow is this Sunday. Next Sunday means a week from now, in my opinion. However,
That's not what next means, though, is it?
Before we have a falling out, we're going to go. I'll be back next Sunday. So there might not be a podcast next Saturday. It depends what mood I'm in, and it depends on how the setup goes. If I think I've got a good streaming setup, then I will tap Caradog and we'll do another remote setup and we'll have another remote chat. Otherwise, I will be back in a couple of weeks. So thank you for tuning in. Epic Player 02, hello and goodbye. Sorry you've tuned in right at the end. You'll have to catch the VOD. But yeah, I'll see you soon. And I'm not getting involved in the discourse as to what defines as next Sunday. There's the Discord link. Continue the conversation. Yada, yada, yada. Thank you very much. I'm going to hit stop streaming now. Thank you and goodbye. Bye.
See ya. Ciao.